Survival crops are crops that you fully depend on, especially on your day to day life. And these are crops that each and every homestead consume either on a daily basis or once in a while in their meals. So when I came here in the village, I found out that most people here fully depend on very basic survival crops, and that's why I came up with this strategy of introducing different types of crops or vegetables that can save you money and you always consume it either on a daily basis or once in a while. So for me, I always say that survival crops do not fully are not supposed to be crops that are basic needs like the maize and beans, because here people survive on maize, beans, and then basic things like the cassava, the sweet potatoes. And so you find farmers planting the maize. Like for me here, most of the time I plant the bigger part of the farm maize. But now this year I decided to introduce other crops in my other farm. So I only planted half of the farm maize, and then the other parts I decided to plant these different types of crops. And the reason why I did that is that these small crops that people assume, like the tomatoes, the ginger, the garlic, are very basic nowadays. And this is something that you need to understand, especially if you're a farmer. I always say that just plant crops that you consume, and do not plant crops that you've seen somebody planting and end up having a vegetable or a crop in your farm that you cannot feed on or that you cannot use. So also do not forget to like this video because it will help YouTube to push it to a wider audience. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. So apart from tomatoes being my number one survival crop because we use it on a daily basis, I always plant other crops like the ginger, the garlic, the turmeric. Having things like that in your farm is also very basic and one of the survival crops that you as a farmer you should consider planting. And things like the carrots, I would consider it survival because we use it on a daily basis in our cooking. So when I talk about survival, means that this is a crop that will save you money, one, and then you are able to also control on how you grow your crops. So it means you're eating organic food from your farm. And these different types of crops like the eggplant, this is one also of my survival crops, because one of the advantages of planting crops like the eggplant and also the bell pepper, it's that it stays in the farm for a very long time, so you're able to harvest it for the longest time possible. So come to think of it, why do these supermarkets or markets sell things like the hibiscus flower, things like the spices? This is because these are one of the things that people underestimate them and are one of our survival crops, because most of the time you'll always find these things as sold in the supermarket, and that's why I will say that even basic things like the herbs, like the spices are one of the survival also crops in your farm, because this you can, apart from saving money, it's one of the healthy habits you should consider. I love growing bananas, either ripe or matoke. And one of the bananas that I'm still missing in my farm is the plantain. And I will consider bananas being one of a survival crop, because the green bananas, you can completely eat it as a complete meal. And the ripe bananas, each and every homestead consumes a ripe banana. So for me, I feel like bananas is a must have in your garden. And also basic things like the cassava, planting cassava, it's a long term crop. And also banana is a lifetime crop. So these are the crops that you should always consider planting in your farm, because they'll always stay there and you'll harvest them for the longest time possible. So if you're a first time gardener or you're just starting your garden, always start with the basics. And the basics are things like the coriander. These are one of my basics because apart from you assume it, you'll always buy it in the market. So anything that you buy in the market, either it's a vegetable or it's a crop that you buy each and every single day, it means you always depend on that crop for survival. And that's why you see me planting different types of crops. Most of the time neighbors come here and say, why do I leave a very large space just empty like that without planting? But I'm always intentional on introducing different types of crops in my farm. And the moment you try it out and it doesn't work, always try and again until you master how to fully plant that crop. So recently I introduced different herbs and spices. So I've realized that my celery has started producing suckers, and now it's time now to plant it at the edges of my raised beds. It's always necessary to plant herbs or onions at the edges of your farm, or you can decide to plant marigold, which is the easiest way to control pests in your garden. So I'll be also removing the suckers and plant them in different spots of my garden. And this is one of the practices that I always do it. Me, I always feel like gardening is one of my therapy. Anytime I feel like my mind is not in the right place, I always go to my garden. And that's why you keep on seeing me planting different types of crops every single day. I just have to plant a crop. Sometimes I do not shoot some crops that I plant because maybe sometimes I plant them in the evening or very early in the morning, like 6 a.m. before I go to work. So you'll always, when you come here in my home, you'll always find me planting something in my garden. And I think one of you asked me how big is the size of our farm. So the section that has our house is around 100 by 100 feet, and then the other section is around half an acre. So our farm has a different angle, so we farm on different spots. So it's very hard to see me focusing on one spot or one area only. You'll see me focusing on different spots because of the different crops that I've planted there. So, come to think of it, why would you start gardening and not practice saving your organic seeds or having your own seeds from the crops that you planted? So, here I practice saving my own seeds. So, these are broccolis that have matured. I decided to let them fully mature so that they can produce seeds and start harvesting them. And you remember us planting the eggplant in our beds and the onions and also the cabbages. So eggplants grow really fast, and I think in the ones that are in the garden, I'm going to let them also mature so that I do not keep on buying the seeds. And this is one of the practices that you as a first time farmer or just a farmer, or even if you're a small scale farmer, you should practice. Always, as much as you can, save your seeds so that you can always control the good seeds that you plant in your farm. So things like the vegetables, I always let my vegetable fully mature and then extract seeds from them. So these are the black nightshade seeds. These seeds, the moment they dry up, I crush them and they dry up. You can even plant them in a full acre. There are so many seeds. And this is one of the best practices that you can do as a first time farmer or just as a farmer. These are our coriander seeds. And also for coriander, I rarely buy the seeds. So I let them mature, fully mature, produce seeds, dry them, and then plant them later. So recently we harvested our groundnuts and we still have more groundnuts in the different spots in our garden. And I would say groundnut is one of the basic survival also. Somebody will say that maybe I'm wrong, but I always say if you go and attempt to buy any of the crop in the market, it means it is one of your survival crop or a meal that you cannot miss in your home, because we use groundnuts for peanut butter, for just as a snack, and then we use it in your food. We crush them and use it in our porridge. So I would say having groundnuts in your farm is also a basic. And today I'm going to plant some more groundnuts in a smaller section because the other section we have the ground has not been prepared. So we always prepare the farm 1 week and then we let it rest for another week and then we plant them. So if you want to successfully plant your groundnuts, I always dig rows and not holes when you're planting your groundnut, and make sure that the rows are a little bit deeper, like 6 inches, 7 inches deep. And then I always drop my groundnuts in a row. So long as you leave a space of 3 inches from one groundnut to another, that's okay. The spacing will be okay. Or even if you just throw them randomly, they will just do really fine. So I'm not going to plant our groundnuts with manure because we're experiencing a mini dry season. So when you plant your crop with manure and it is dry, the manure will burn up your seed. So it's always advisable to just plant it plain without manure. And this is the best practices you can practice, especially when it is dry, because it can stay in the ground for even a month, until when the rains come, that's when you'll start seeing them shooting. So I'll just be planting them plain without manure, because also I do not want to water them because they need persistent watering. Another crop that I'm adding, which I'll consider survival, most homes here consume potatoes, either as they fry for fries like the chips, or they just use it in their day-to-day meals. So potatoes is a must-have in your garden, and they stay for like 3 months. You start harvesting. So for us here, the potatoes that really do well are the ones that are red and not the ones that are white. The cover of the potatoes are white. So the ones that do well in our soil are the ones that have red cover. And that's what I'm going to plant. We'll see how they will perform. I did not plant them in my first season because they tend to not perform better or better than in the second season. So things like and you'll see the difference in my groundnuts, second season groundnuts and the first season groundnuts. For second season is the best time to plant groundnuts, and they always produce bigger groundnuts. I'll show you, I think in the next 3 months, in November or beginning of December, when we are going to harvest, and you'll see a very big difference in the size of our groundnuts from the first season. And that's why it's always good if you're doing it commercially. always check on the season or the timing of the different types of crops that you want to grow. So one of you asked why I crush the my seeds so that I dry them. So you can decide if you want to plant them just like that. You can decide just to leave up, just drop them in the farm, and then they will grow. But crushing them, it makes them easier to dry up. So they dry up faster when they are crushed than when you just leave them when they are whole. You are going to destroy the seeds when you do not crush them. So we are going to crush and then dry them before we prepare breakfast. Before I prepare, not breakfast, lunch for the kids. The last time I harvested, I had forgotten this section that has groundnuts. So I want to harvest that small section because we are going to use that for our snack. And that means groundnuts is one of my basic. And maybe because here it's one of the common crops people grow, and it's not something that surprises anyone. Most homes, they can never miss a groundnut crop, or a cassava, or a maize crop, or a sweet potatoes in their farm, or bananas. Bananas is also one of the must have in each and every homestead here in the village. Ooh, four. So that is it for us here in the farm. And please let me know in the comment section. And if you're watching this video and you haven't liked, comment, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, please consider doing that. And the more you like my videos, the more YouTube pushes it to a wider audience. So that means it's able to reach a wider audience. So thank you so much, and you can also let me know in the comment section which is one of your survival crops. What did you enjoy in this video? What crops you fully depend on in your day-to-day life? So let me know, and I will really appreciate. So thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. For now, it's a bye bye.